This company's never been more profitable.
You mean hugely profitable?
I like it.
DavePorter.com presents The Profitable Cleaner, a podcast on commercial cleaning sales and entrepreneurship. The one podcast that's not afraid to discuss real sales strategies with real cleaning professionals that produce real profits and real results.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Profitable Cleaner. Today we got Mr. Mike Sawchuk. Welcome to the podcast, brother.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Angel, James, and the listeners out there to The Profitable Cleaner. Look forward to sharing some knowledge and hopefully getting some value from you guys and the rest of your team. Thank you.
100%. No, the topic, I know we talk a lot about sales, we talk leadership, personal development, but right now when we were speaking earlier, this topic today is going to be fun because I think there's a lack of standards and almost like a lack of winning, right, in commercial cleaning. And part of that commercial cleaning is actually, like you were talking about earlier, is keeping the buildings clean, the right procedures, the right operations. And instead of comparing it to the person next to you that's at the same level that you are, is comparing it to the best of the best. So I'm super excited. But before we get into it, Mike, would you mind giving the people an introduction of yourself? I mean, I know you've been in the game for more than 30 years, if I'm not mistaken. You do consulting, education, but would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you very much, Angel. Love to. I'm passionate about this industry, and as you said, I've been in the industry for over 30 years. I've been involved with manufacturing, small, medium, and international companies. I've worked for distribution, and I've worked with cleaning providers, let it be in-house as well as BSC. I've also consulted to all three groups. And like I said earlier, it truly is a passion. I do believe that what we really do as an industry are helping save lives. We're literally keeping people safer and healthier. It's unfortunate that most of North America look at cleaning and cleaning industry as the lowest or bottom level of the social economic ladder. But what we do matters. And what the people that clean and what they do is important. And that's what drives my passion. And what you said, unfortunately, there's some not so good cleaning operations. There's a lot of great ones out there, but there's some not so good ones that doesn't help build that image of the importance and the quality of our work. So my interest is being a resource to assist those that want help. If you don't want help, if you're complacent, apathetic, lazy, fine and dandy. I'm not going to force myself on you, but those that really want to drive improvements in any area that I could be either resource to assist them or direct them to experts that can.
When you say, and we'll just jump in here directly, you said saves lives, right? I would 1000% agree with you. But there's some even owners of their own commercial cleaning company or facility management or building service contractors that, not saying that they would disagree, but they almost don't put the importance of what commercial cleaning is, which is interesting, right? Quick question for you. Where did your conviction come from when it comes down to actually knowing that every time a facility stays cleaner, you're actually improving the lives of those working there and, like you said, save lives?
I can't put a definite date it happened then, but it's been something that's been in my heart for over 30 years. I used to do seminars 30 years ago about the importance of custodians, typically in schools. Back then, that's when I spent a lot of time. And said the typical custodian at a school, you look at what they do, their roles. Number one, they're typically like the Walmart greeter. If you walk into that main hall entranceway, if it's clean and smells good and shiny, that's a Walmart greeter role coming in. I've been in schools that people trusted a custodian greater than they did a guidance counselor at a school. They just confided in them. So they're providing a guidance. I personally was walked through many schools that have a sport jacket on and dress up shirt. The teachers thought, oh, that must be a new substitute teacher. I'd be walk around. The ones that would catch me would be the custodian. So they're security officers. So Walmart greeter, guidance counselor. They're sitting there as a security officer. You want to know who the troublemakers were, where they smoked the dope and who's the smokers. They would be able to tell you all that better than in the class. Then you look at what they do, and I say they save lives. And there's a difference between, and I would argue that with commercial cleaner owner operator says, oh, we're not that important, because most don't understand cleaning. They say we're cleaners. They say we're cleaners. But I would argue with them, until you have evidence-based data, whatever you call yourself, I could call myself an astronaut. It doesn't make me one. I could call myself a surgeon. It doesn't mean I'm a surgeon. So you call yourself a cleaner or you call yourself a commercial cleaning operation. Where's the evidence-based data that you're cleaning? And the definition is cleaning is the removal of soils and pathogens and safely disposing them in the proper place. If you're doing that, removing and disposing of them properly and safely, you're cleaning. But too many cleaning operations don't do that, guys. They pollute. They take this mop head, they flush it out, they go into the bathroom, they got urine around the urinals, they got urine around the toilets. What do? They mop from corner to corner to corner to corner. They flush it out, and they mop more. So they're not really removing soils and pathogens and safely disposing them in a proper place. They're polluting from corner to corner to corner to corner. So that's one problem, that is really understanding what is cleaning. Number two, if you are removing soils and pathogens, you are literally keeping that surface in a safer, healthier condition. It's too late when people are sick. They go to the doctors, they go to the clinic, they go to the hospital. You could help prevent. You could be practicing fire prevention, or you're a firefighter. And cleaning is prevention if it's done with that definition that I said earlier. And then the third thing is it has to be seen as multi-dimension. And as a cleaning, that you got the air, you got the surface, and you got the subsurface. And sometimes people lose sight of that they've got a malodor, so I'll just spray an air freshener. Well, no, deal with the source of that malodor, safely identify and remove it, not camouflage that. So your cleaning is impacting indoor air. That's one example. You're adding pollutants. Number two is the choice of chemicals. Are they really green certified? More importantly, I'm a big advocate of indoor air quality. I write about that a lot. And saying it's something simple is, how do you really know? Are your products Green Guard certified, as an example? So there's a third party that could be dual certified with green certification that validates on an annual basis that product doesn't emit the off-gassing of tens of thousands of chemicals that they look at, that proves that product really is safer for indoor air quality impact. So there where I argue that cleaners actually do help save lives and keep people safer and healthier in that facility, as long as the cleaning operation understands we need to clean the surface. But sometimes if we don't know how to clean subsurface, that could be drains in floors, it could be urinal pipes, it could be drains and sinks that you think you clean the sink, soon as somebody splashes water, any pathogens there get splashed right back up on skin while they're washing their hands. So it's air, surface, and subsurface.
Wow.
Oh man.
What a definition of multiple different things, but just like, are you cleaning and are you doing a good job right there? Mike, I have a question for you. So on your website, you say two words that jump off the page to me that I see a big problem with in the industry. But I know the top performing companies really nail this one, and it's operational excellence. You say that a lot on your website. What does that mean to you exactly? And where are some of the gaps with some of the clients you've worked with in the past that you see some of that operational excellence lack?
Right? Somebody once told me short pencil's better than a long memory, so I'm writing it down. All right. I think the biggest thing to start off with, James, if you don't mind, is with an analogy. And when I have this analogy on a cleaning, I said, okay, close your eyes and just picture your car. Not what you guys do. Literally, close your eyes, picture your car. So what you're seeing right now, the color, the shape, the style, the size, the scratches, the size of tires, the rims, the bumpers, and maybe if you got any other decals on it, or airframes, the mirrors, the tint. You look inside the window. If you don't have too dark of a tint, you can see the gauge, the upholstery. All that stuff there is your product procedures, protocols, and policies of a cleaning operation. Okay? But operational excellence, I'm leading into your question, James. I'm not gone off on a senior's tangent, is that If you had that, your car, whatever car it is, and you had a lawnmower engine on it, how responsive would it be? How quickly would it get you from A to B? Or if you had a 4-cylinder or a 6 or an 8 or V12 turbocharged engine on it, your people are the engine and drivetrain of that cleaning operation. And they're dependent upon each other. So you say, I can have the world's greatest products, but if I have this lawnmower engine on it, I'm not going to be able to deliver operational excellence. It's a combination of the people and the products coming together. And then my analogy then goes on further and says, okay, all of us here, I don't know if you guys like racing, if it's Formula or NASCAR, just because we know how to drive, if we were in one of those race cars, do you think we would win a race? Seriously?
No, absolutely
we don't
not.
have the skill set to. That's the other question. We may think so. They could give us that car, that product, procedures, protocols with the right drive engine, but we're going to fail because we don't have the driving skills. We're not making those right decisions, those split-second decisions on. We'd be turning when we should have been turning like seconds before that, and we'd be too high on the curves and stuff like that. And also the fuel. That if we took the car and went down to our local gas station and put regular unleaded in there, it may falter. So the leadership. The most important thing is not your product, procedure, protocols. It's not your people. They're important. But what's most important is the leadership. And here's where too many cleaning operations lack leadership. They inherited, they're an entrepreneur, but they don't have the leadership skills. And with this great resignation happening, there's a separation. There's a great divide. And I just typically ask a BSC, what's your employee turnover rate? Some will tell me it's hundreds of percent. You know what? That's your fault. What? It's your fault. You're the one that decides who to hire, how to onboard, how to train. I got other BSCs, and one in particular comes to mind. They're on a school district. Think of a school district paying unionized wages, couldn't hire BSCs. They just couldn't hire anybody. And so they need to get cleaned up. So I had to go to this BSC. They went to him. On Friday afternoon, he hired 12 custodians, trained them Saturday and Sunday, was ready to rock and roll on the Monday. He has no turnover issue. He has people waiting to join his companies. He's able to call that out. And that's a function leading towards operational excellence. So the point is, operational excellence is that synergistic effect of having the right products, procedures, protocols, and policies compared to best in class. And a simple one, James, is we look at buckets. If you're cleaning with a mop and bucket, are you using a single cavity bucket or a dual cavity bucket? Are you taking all that dirty water, putting into the bucket, and then getting your mop and continue polluting what you're trying to mop? Or at least you're trying to mop out that the soils are dumped in compartment 2, or you're getting clean soils or clean solution from number 1? Or are they using a pre-soaked flat mop system? Or are they looking at and saying that we developed a protocol when to change the disinfectant, not based on the look and smell of the solution, but looking at the ppm of the quats in there, so we could know that that solution still has enough ppm as a disinfectant to do another room. So people are operational excellence, procedures are operational excellence, and they come together through the leadership that creates that culture of encouragement, engagement, empowerment, motivation. So the point is, operational excellence can really make the difference in terms of results. And my last point would be is think of it this way, and the analogy, I told you guys the car analogy. My second analogy is think of a river, a surging river with all this water, and you got a road on one side of the river and one side of the other. You need to create this bridge. So the river represents your competition, your customer expectations, ability or lack of ability to find employees, etc. That's that surging water. And on one side of the road, one side of the bridge is your vision, your plan, your strategies. And on the other side, James, is the results. I want these results. It doesn't mean I'm going to get it. In the middle there, the two pillars holding up that bridge is, first of all, I really believe culture. So it's the quality of the people, the right people. But if you have an operation that has high levels of engagement, empowerment, motivation, satisfaction, and then you create operational excellence with the right products, the right procedures, the right frequencies, the right tasks, and the right quality assurance measurement. That's what's happening a lot of time in our, how do you know? What data do you have? They're not measuring it to say, there's my data points. Those data points start telling a picture. I'm monitoring, I'm tracking it, I'm seeing it go up. but most importantly, I act on it. I look at that data point, say, okay, I want to improve. I'll change one variable at a time to constantly drive improvement. So that's operational excellence. I hope it wasn't too long-winded for you, James.
No, I think that's an awesome definition of it, and I think that's really, really well said. Angel, if you don't mind, I'm just going to ask a follow-up.
Yeah, go for it.
Top of mind. So you talk about data points, and I really like that. I think a lot of people in the cleaning industry are like, okay, what data should I be looking at when it comes to, okay, am I doing a good job? Am I not? Not just from a cleaning perspective, but also a business perspective. And then I was reading a little bit about you. You talk about like what data should a facility manager be looking at, and what should they have? They either have lack of information or information overload, as you put it, but not relevant information. So like when you hear commercial cleaning, a lot of people don't correlate that with data. Can you maybe talk about that a little bit?
I believe that's going to be the separation moving forward, guys. I do believe that we're moving, and it's a huge thing, is that we're moving into the fourth industrial revolution. And operations need to get it. And cleaning operations aren't going to be leading. They're going to be dragged into it, probably heels kicking and scraping. But the point of it is, these are all these external forces that you look at. Number one is the age of big data, more data, quality and quantity of data in real time, et cetera. That's what we're looking for. And that's what the world is all about. You look at blockchain technology to have secure transactions and ownership of that information, is that all of a sudden it's not going to be my data versus your data. Blockchain is going to allow that. You look at capacity with moving to 5G, where you get greater volume and you get greater speed of that data. And then fourthly, you look at the Internet of Things and artificial learning, augmented learning, machine learning. So you look at the convergence of all those things coming together. That's going to move us into this fourth industrial revolution that's going to change the way buildings and properties are managed, from economics, what's my heating bill, my occupancy rate, to really understanding. And I think it's good. I really do. I applaud that. It's going to be customer centric. You're going to be looking at customer experience, and you're going to be looking at those facilities that are able to give a better experience. And you're seeing that somewhat. Why in Toronto you have some buildings at 20% occupancy and other office buildings are at significantly higher, 80% plus? Because some people say, I'm not going back to that environment. COVID taught me, and I get things that are more important. If I'm not comfortable because of safe workspaces, et cetera, I don't feel comfortable in that level of cleaning. I walk in, they got this commercial cleaning, but I look around and I see dirt all over the place. I smell malodors, or I see the building or the commercial cleaner saying, oh, we're doing a great job, we're great cleaners, and I see these cleaners, they're not cleaning properly. The people are starting to understand that, you probably should be using microfiber over paper cloth. You shouldn't be cleaning back and forth like this because that's polluting. You're not cleaning by going in one direction. So the expectations of people are a lot higher. So with that, the fourth industrial revolution is those that figure that out become early adopters and giving a higher customer experience and higher employee experience. So all those custodians and FM people run the building, you need to manage that and meet those people where they want to be met. Those that figure that out by use of technology are going to create a huge advantage for themselves. So data point to me is important. And sometimes contract cleaners, they don't have the ability to have the most sophisticated data. So my point is, any data is better than no data. So if you're walking around with a clipboard and you're doing the old-fashioned sight and smell check, so I'm walking the facility, that's all it takes. I walk the facility, I'm looking to, okay, do I have any malodors that maybe that says that garbage wasn't changed, or I got ammonia or urine smell in the bathroom, tells me that's probably uric acid buildup in those urinal pipes, or we got problems where urine has seeped under the floor, and we actually created a pool of urine between the subfloor and our top flooring. So literally there's a pool of urine there. Unless you deal with that source of the malodor, you could have a nice looking bathroom that looks very clean, but where's that odor coming from? So to me, James, the first thing you walk around with a clipboard, I'm visually checking, I'm smelling checking. That's better than nothing. But what's important is not just taking that that sheet and stick it into a drawer. What's then important is reporting it, recording it, tracking it. So it's some sort of dashboard. It could be still manual, but people are seeing that level marks are going up higher and higher, or it's getting worse. So then you act on it. The second way of doing it, you could do something, okay, want something a little bit more sophisticated, we'll use like a black light, a gel with a black light. So we could put it on certain areas. We come back and see, was that cleaned or not? And you want to elevate that even further, you move to things like ATP. ATP then, so you're getting something more objective because there's a numeric value to what you had, but it's not without a lot of problem. The cost of swabbing, people sometimes don't know how to swab properly, so I could mix that data. Or you move to a newer technology, fluorescent imaging. And the one that I think is really neat, not that one is, you probably need all of them, and then they're layered, but is a product called the Bactiscan. And if you could think of one of those flood flashlights,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and it's got 4 different bulbs in it, and that's all you do. Walk into a room, you're flashing the walls, you're flashing the door handle,
Wow.
and it actually illuminate. And depending on the color, the intensity of the color, you know that there's a load there. So all it means, hey, that area is okay. I see nothing. That area got a problem. Then we could, layer that with ATP. There's a company from UK that's looking to launch a product in early 2023. They're going to give better data than a typical ATP, but instead of a swab cost in Canada, United States, $4, $5 a swab, it's going to be down to about $1.50. So my point, James, is there's a lot of ways, at a lot of different cost points, each with their own advantages and disadvantage. And it's not necessarily that you have to do one or the other. Do something,
Sure.
measure, record it, track it, and then act on it. And that's where a lot of contract cleaners don't do. They don't do a good job at saying, hey, I don't like those results, so let's change something. So you may want to change the product, the tool you're using, the frequency, the procedure, but quality assurance becomes critical. My last point, guys, is there's a difference, and I just recently wrote an article for ISSA or CIMS, CMM magazine, is the difference between verification and validation. So what we've been talking about is verifying. You're verifying cleaning results. How do I know what my level of clean, healthy, and safe is? Because I'm measuring it. I'm reporting it. That's verification. Validation is what you said, James. Are you doing it for the right reasons? Are you going back to the customer and understanding what they want? And they really want a clean, healthy, safe facility for all their building visitors and occupants. So validation is saying what we're doing is right for the customer. Verification is more of an internal process that we use it to drive improvements constantly, consistently in our operations to drive constant operational excellence.
Nice.
There's a lot, first of all, which is awesome. I think people are gonna enjoy this podcast episode a lot.
Me too.
There's this almost like we've talked to a lot. This podcast has allowed us to talk to a lot of commercial cleaners, a lot of trainers, consultants. There's so many different viewpoints in what's happening, right? Like one of my favorite one was a guy talking about like the growth of smart buildings, which is really cool. But let me ask you, is there such thing as, well, as long as the client's happy, do I really need to report it? Or like not just the bad, but the good, right? Or have we reached a level? I think we've reached a point where because of access to all the technology and data, that you kind of have to. It's your obligation to show everything, all the improvements, changes, everything that's happening inside of a building. But there's some people that say that they would rather, that if they don't have to, they won't need to. Am I making sense right now?
You're making sense. I think what's most important, though, Angel, is that they are actually verifying their cleaning results. So it's one thing to have these quality assurances in place. So I'd argue you need it, and you want to become as best as possible. So if you're doing nothing, then do the simple smell and visual checks, but document it, put it down. How else do you go back to your people and say you're doing a good job or a bad job? You want to catch them doing things right. So there's lots of reasons why internally think of that as a quality assurance program. So you need it. Reporting it to the customer, okay, you may or may not want to do it, but I'm a believer of you're leaving yourself vulnerable. If the customers don't know what you're doing in terms of providing this level of clean, healthy, and safety. But, James, Angel, you're so important to me. I'm trying to drive constant improvement. And then so it becomes maybe like a quarterly meeting. I'm showing you as an example, let's say we had ATP meter results. Or let's say I do talk the same thing with indoor air quality. We say, okay, here's our reading. So we're doing particulate matter and we're not happy with the results. So what we did here, we actually changed our filtration. We moved from this level of MERV to that level of MERV, or we cleaned out the air ducts, or we actually changed the membrane we use. So we use the same type of filters, but we didn't go to MERV. We just changed the membrane, or we added a coating to it. But it shows, see when we did it? See the data point? How much we've now improved particulate matter. That's important. Because what our whole job is, I don't want to just give you the service. I want to give you a clean, healthy facility at the lowest overall cost. Second thing in there could be things like, note your total VOCs and CO2 combined. They're just an indication of indoor air quality. See what we did? How'd you do it? Well, we've improved ventilation, or in different ways, more exchanges, different filtration. So all those things become is yes, quality assurance is required. You're never going to have quality operational excellence without quality assurance program, but then you could use that strategically as a way to let the customers know that you're a better partner than anybody. And I would say that those PSCs that aren't doing that, they're leaving themselves vulnerable. They just need to understand that the newer generation may not be as forgiving as the older generation, that the younger people are going to say, it's not relationship all the time. It's show me the data. And if somebody else is going to come in and be able to say, yeah, here's what we're going to provide to you, you know what, my butt is in the ringer. I'd really say, okay, make my job easier so I could take your data, Mr. BSC, and report it out to my stakeholders, whoever they are. So you need to do quality assurance. That's no questions about it. The better quality assurance program, and they are layered, the better. But I say, yes, you should be communicating that with your customers. And then from there, trying to understand what's important to them. Because what happens is that every stakeholder group will have different expectations. And sometimes contract cleaners assume they paint everybody with the same brush. So if you're looking at, if I'm a cleaner, that maybe if I'm in a school, what the teachers want could be different than what the students want. What they want could be different what the other licensed people want in the FM department, which could be different what my superintendent want. So it's so important not for me to give you what I think you want, what I think each stakeholder want. I should start off with those stakeholders, understand what are your expectations. Then I report back to you in a professional manner what I'm delivering and what I'm not delivering. So, James, I'm not giving you this, and here's why. I just don't have the manpower. You want this done? It's going to require, you want me to clean, this frequency? I can't do that and do all these other things. So either you got to give me more dollars, et cetera. So use the party negotiation, but you've got to know the expectations. Don't just think you know it. You then got to measure and report that what you're doing. And then you got to show what you're meeting and exceeding and what you're not meeting and why not, and give them alternatives. That's how you develop more longer-term ingrained relationship. That's how you become more of a trusted partner to that operation, as opposed to just simply a service provider. Moving forward, people are going to be looking for partnering, someone that is going to help me make me look better than someone that's going to just go clean stuff. If I could do that, then you better be the lowest. If that's all I want, then you better be the absolute cheapest guy out there or gal out there doing that service. But if you really believe that cleaning is so important because it helps keep people safer and healthier, it can contribute to the saving of lives, indirectly, or more importantly, indirectly, that you better be able to validate that. And that's the problem we talked about. Most cleaning operations don't know. They really don't know. Mike, Angel, is Mike doing a good job? Yeah, he told me so. Or, yeah, I'm not hearing no complaints from James or anybody else, so I guess Mike is doing a good job. But what evidence-based data do you have? And I'm a big believer of evidence-based data, not, subjective-based data. And second of all, the more that you have, the better. And balancing risk and reward. You want enough to drive the right decisions, but you don't want too much that's going to stall decision-making and cause procrastination. But you want to be able to provide evidence-based data on what's being delivered and what can be delivered by making any changes.
I think there's the more I hear you talk, I'm like, there's a difference between somebody winning a contract to clean the building, and there's a difference between somebody winning the contract to be like to take that building as their baby almost. Like it's like as a cleaning advisor versus just a cleaner. Like the more I hear you talk, you do put a lot of focus into the improvement of, like, there's a difference between I'm gonna clean it so it looks clean and then I'm gonna clean it to improve the health and safety. Like there's a huge difference there. And let's say that somebody's listening to this and they're going, okay, all right, Mike, you got me. You got me. I'm not doing it as I should. At what stage of a cleaning company does this become a priority? Because there's also like maybe it's a priority in the beginning, like maybe we might say that, but there's such thing as like, what if I can't afford an ATP or fluorescent lighting, or it's just a smaller team? Like at what point do you upgrade your quality assurance systems as you grow?
I think the first thing is really understand your target market niche. And I think sometimes that's what people that are starting out in business don't do. They say, I'm a cleaner for everybody. But heaven forbid, if you were going to have open heart surgery, or if your mom or dad have open heart surgery, would you want a GP to do it, general practitioner, or would you want a specialist? So I think the first thing is that a lot of times BSCs need to understand, I need to niche myself to become a specialist in it, and I need to have very clear differentiation. And that's the topic of, I talk about that in that other module. But from there, so that you've got to start with your customer. What are their expectations? That's what I said earlier. In terms of if all they're looking for is these tasks and these frequencies, and they don't give a care. And some people don't. They don't care about health and safety. They actually got, earplugs in, they got blinders on and say, no, my job is just to give a contract out and I get rewarded for who could give it the cheapest. So they're hiring the cheapest contractor. So they really don't care. So then the contractor needs to do that. I think what you need to look at is that not everything costs a lot of money to do. As an example, when you're buying buckets, well, you say, okay, you know what we're going to do? From now on, we're going to buy dual compartment buckets as opposed to, a single compartment. We're going to buy, microfiber and provide that training. We talk about the cost of people. Well, if they're 80% or so of the cost of your cleaning operation, I sit there and say, okay, what's your turnover rate? 300%. What does it cost you to train somebody? X. How long does it take you to hire somebody? This long. How long does it take for them to become fully operational? Those things all have costs. So if you really look at and understand those data, again, to James' point, those data points on here's my turnover rate, here's what it's costing me, et cetera, you can say, well, if I invest on maybe how to hire the right people, how to hire better people, they may be good people for your operation, but they don't fit into my internal culture, the team. That's so important, or the type of cleaning that I want to do. Years ago, they looked at cleaners. They don't have to be communicating. I'm saying if I'm running a long-term care, a hospital, or BSC, one skill I'll be looking for? They have proactive, interactive communication skills. I want them to be able to go into that long-term patient room and says, Mike, I'm lying in the bed, and say, Mike, how do we do today? Did we clean everything okay? Did I miss anything? How many cleaners do that? But those that do it, they may not, I may complain. Okay, I'll speak to my boss, James, let him know. But you're looking for a different skill set. And I think that's where a lot of cleaning operations need to be focused on. What are the expectations of my customers today? What are my expectations of those customers in the future? And I need to be hiring, I need to be training, I need to be developing operational excellence for them. Not because I think it's right. Frankly, nobody cares what I think. Is you start with your customer and work backwards. What are their expectations? What are their desires? And be able to give them that. And because otherwise there's going to be a lot of disruption, and you're seeing it. To my point earlier, why is some contract cleaners struggling with employee turnover rate too high or unable to find people, and others aren't? And it's not a matter of age. I got one customer, she's been in business over 40 years, and she has no problem hiring people. She has very low turnover rate. There's a waiting list. So it doesn't matter if you're old or you're new. It's just a matter of the leadership quality and understanding that leadership is about people. You manage assets, but you need to lead and inspire people. And that's that's your only differentiation. And when it comes to cleaning, you can't argue that my chemicals are better than your chemical. My mop is better than your mop. What really makes a difference, what's going to deliver those results, and what is truly a value-added differentiation is the quality of your people. And that is how you hire, who you hire, attitudes and traits, and you train them for the skills. That's how you onboard them. That makes a huge difference in retention rates. It makes a huge difference in the length to become a good quality employees. The bars you set, I say, you know what? Don't hire anybody unless they have the potential or they already have the ability to be better than your best people. You don't want to say, okay, these are my people. I'm going to hire somebody that I know will never be as good as my best person. You don't want to do that. You take longer, go through more rocks to find those diamonds, but you say, I'm not going to hire anybody that doesn't have the potential to be as good as my best employees. I'll put a probation period in there, and I may need to hire 10 people as an example, knowing that 2 or 3 won't show up for the initial training. 2 or 3 is going to quit on me and 2 or 3 I'll probably ask to leave, but I'm going to end up with 2 of the best. So I'll start with 10 to get 2, as opposed to starting with 2 and get nothing, or settling for something else. So there's a whole management process to really understand what you need. And again, it goes back to that powertrain. Your people are the powertrain, but your leadership creates that culture that allows for operational excellence. And that's what you need, the right plans. And that's what we thought, the right niche marketing, blah, blah, blah. The right culture executing properly will get you those right results. Other than that, you're liable to have a bridge that gets washed away with the surge of water, competition, change of expectations, etc.
Oh man, I just want to I don't know about you guys, but I just want to hang out with you, just ask you questions all day.
You'd be the only 2 guys that want to do that.
And hopefully everyone else is listening.
The more I feel like any industry you're put into, of course you chose as building service contractors, but again, there's a difference between someone saying they have excellence. There's people that say they're excellent at working out. I like to say I love working out and I have excellence, but I know I don't, right? Not even compared to if you put me next to Tom Brady, right? I like to say there's excellence in winning, and then you meet Tom Brady, right? And I think there's people that say they're all quality driven and data driven, but the more you speak, I'm there's excellence to what you're doing. Well, I just moving away a little bit from cleaning, because I know we're running into the top of the time here for the podcast. Where did this drive for excellence and assurance came from? It's who did you learn from? What did you learn? What do you like to read? You almost give me this Socratic, stoic type of energy, where it's it doesn't matter what you think. What matters is it actually being done, right? Evidence-based cleaning, things like that. I'm again, that's what I'm saying. I just want to hang out with you. But where did you get your drive for excellence?
Probably through osmosis, but many years ago, I joined the propane industry, and I was blessed by having someone that took me under his wings as a mentor. And so a lot I learned from him, and I didn't know at the time. And sometimes they were painful. He wasn't the most tact and diplomatic and teaching the lessons, but he got the lessons across. And 2 things that come to mind very succinctly is that I was I was living away from home, so I was just a workaholic, and he called me in one day and to his office. So he had to walk right by my cubicle to get to his plush corner office, and he says, "Come with me, Mike." And then reflecting on his intent, he opens up his briefcase and takes out all these trade magazines. And he goes, "Mike, see the difference between you and I?" He goes, "What?" "I do my other reading at home. You do it at the office." And his message was that there's eyes around. So there was people squealing on me to him. So, "Oh yeah, Mike is sitting there working those long hours because he is reading trade magazine." Well, the truth be known, I was living in a basement apartment. I had no place to go that was as good, as comfortable as my cubicle, and I wasn't paid by the hour. But that was his way of just be careful. It's perception, etc. Another one that he had was, he said, "Mike, what makes the difference between someone that really is successful, gets a lot of stuff done, and the other person that doesn't? The other person may work harder, longer, but doesn't get things done. Or the one person ends up with a heart attack or stroke or sugar diabetes, etc., and the other guy that doesn't." He goes, "I don't know." He goes, "They learn in life a very simple thing. Ask yourself a simple question. Do I have control over it? If the answer is no, then don't worry about it. And so many people in business today that their market share is down, or there's something's happened, their competition doing something, and so they're worrying about do you have control of what your competition is doing? No, then forget about it. Could you change the direction of the Earth's rotation? Could you change the speed? No, don't worry about it. Don't complain about the weather. You can't. So if you have no control, ask you, do I have control? The answer is no. Don't worry about it. Put your energies and your focus on what you have control over. At the end of the day, two people could work as hard as each other. One's going to accomplish so much more because they've been focused on what they have control over. And they ask themselves over and over what's going to have the greatest impact over the short term, midterm, long term. So part of that to have control over is knowing what's important versus what's urgent. What's my sand in that jar versus what's my golf ball. So they focus on the right things at the right times, and they understand what short term, midterm, long term. The other person is working harder, longer, but they'll end up with a stroke, heart attack, and not accomplish it. So that's what really driven me. So in our industry, guys, there's a lot of great people out there. And so I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn just listening to them. So if it's indoor air quality, I have my 2 or 3 favorite people on indoor air quality. If it's hospital-acquired illnesses, I got my 2 or 3 people that I look for. And I just recognize that we could always learn. And then the last thing is that to apply that sometimes I said earlier, cleaning companies look at other cleaning companies. Schools will look at other schools in their district or other colleges, etc. You can't really do something significantly better if the competition is like. And that's all you're doing. It's window dressing. So you need to look outside. So I don't mind looking at other industries and say, what do they do? How do they do it? How do they learn from that and apply it back to our industry? So I think it may not have answered you as succinctly as you.
No, it's great.
But, it's just a passion of mine, and that's what I bring to the course. That those that are successful, it starts with themselves. You can't drive change unless you change yourself, and change starts here. First of all, it's mindset. You got to have that mindset, and then you need to understand it's your mindset. It's the actions, what you do. It's not desires. It's not wishful thinking. It's what you actually do. And then to what I said with James is you got to have the navigating, that you're actually tracking enough data that you know if you're on course or not on course, and then act on that data, make adjustments, remain fluid and flexible because you're not meeting the results or you're not as effective, efficient, productive as you want to be. But it becomes a process that the best operation will drive constant improvement and never stop. Just be relentless.
Now, I have one last question that I always ask, but James, do you have anything before we jump into the last question?
No, I think you're good, man. This has been so good.
Yeah, I know. I think people are going to get a lot. Before I ask the final question, how do people connect with you? I know you have a educational program as well. If somebody's really interested in doubling down in what we just spoke about, like the quality assurance, how do they find that, by the way? Like, how can they connect with you real quick?
Two ways is number one through my website. So just www.Sawchuk Consulting, all one word.com. On it, the homepage gives you a little bit about me. Then there's something that's interests my education course tab for that. There's a separate tab for consulting services. And one thing that's really neat out there is, Angel, is I've got a tab called media. And so there's a box on the top right-hand corner says podcast, blog, articles, videos. So what they do, they can now say, okay, let's check articles. They hit that. It'll get all my articles for recent times in chronological order. They could now go through those different articles, find something that resonates with them or is important to them. They could just click that link and read that article. They could do the same thing with podcasts. So down the road, they'll have your podcast. If you listen to the podcast, so describe what it is. And if they're interested, they'll be able to do that. So that's one thing, just to get that additional freebie type information. But on the website, there's also context. So they could look at my schedule and book a quick 10-minute call. I welcome that. So they could look at their schedule, look at with my schedule, and book a 10-minute call. That's the first way. Learn about me on the website, book a call with me on the website. The other thing is clearly through LinkedIn. My LinkedIn profile, as you go, my overview and my history, there's a lot of good information that says what are my specific skills, accomplishments, how I helped others, etc. But thank you, and I'd appreciate anybody. Feel free and explore. And I'm very transparent. If I could help them, and if they like the connection with our personalities, they want to hang out, we'll do that. But if it turns out that they don't like my personality or they don't feel a fit with their personality, or more importantly, they're asking for something that I know that I'm not an expert in, I'm not the type of consultant that says, yeah, I'll do the job. If I can't add significant value very quickly and evidently, I'll rather lead them to somebody else that their expertise. So if they're looking for website development or, building a sales funnel, et cetera, that's not my area of expertise. I could help them critique it, but then I would say, okay, here's 2 or 3 other people you should be looking at.
100%. I like it. So if you guys like the podcast, connect with Mike, LinkedIn, go to his website. Let him know at least that you heard him here. But one last question here, Mike. So let's say somebody looks at the podcast episode, the number, they see your name, they look you up. They're like, okay, all right, this guy looks interesting. I know there's going to be a lot of value in this podcast. But before I commit to this whole podcast, I'm going to skip to the last 30 seconds or a minute of this podcast. I'm going to see what he answers. And based on this question or this answer, then I'll listen to the whole podcast. So if you could give him one advice, I know, right? Just, it all comes down to these final, it's a shot clock. Here we go. If it all came down to the last 30 seconds, final advice, story, teaching, anything that you wanted to be known for, Mike, what would that one thing be to get them to listen to the whole podcast?
I could help them grow their business successfully, and that would be just a focus on operational excellence and focusing on starting with the customer, really understanding what their customers want and assisting them developing those action steps, those results with evidence-based data to prove that they can deliver in what the customer wants. That's what will build their business.
Boom. I love it. Well, Mike, thank you so much for being here, brother. Truly do appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll put your links down here in the show notes. James, always a pleasure co-hosting with you, man.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Angel. Thank you, James, and thank you to everyone else that's listening into the podcast. And I'm grateful for that opportunity. And by all means, if somebody just wants to explore, doesn't cost them anything, but a little bit of time to explore with me. And if I could add value, they'll know that very quickly. If I can't add value, they'll know that very quickly as well. So thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thank you.